Welcome back to another video, and today we'll be doing my collective eyeshadow palette review video for November. So welcome back, and today we're doing a collective eyeshadow palette review video. In this month's version of the video, let's see if we're gonna do two actually in this month, but I did manage to collect now 4 palettes for reviews. Usually we have 5, sometimes we have more, sometimes less. This is the kind of video we're gonna have a bit less, but how should I say, it was a very interesting a month or so that I have been trying, because how I review my eyeshadow palettes is that I put them into my two-week rotation, where I use the same makeup products that I have for that 2-week period of time, and then after that 2 weeks I am able to really make a conclusive review about the palettes. Of course, sometimes with time it can happen that I change my mind about eyeshadow palettes, but usually the 2 weeks has been enough time for me to try out the formulas and see how I actually like the palette. I think this video could have been titled that holiday palettes only, but there's actually one palette here that I'm actually currently wearing that's not a holiday palette, but all the three rest of them are holiday palettes, so we're definitely in the holiday season. And this week I don't think we had any like complete losers in terms of quality. I did have one clear favorite, and there's gonna be again one palette that's gonna get decluttered. However, with this week I would like to emphasize that unlike with the previous video where the one palette that did get decluttered, it was decluttered because I didn't like the formula of it. I think the formulations of the palette were, especially the shimmers, were quite poor. In this video I don't think there were any issues with the formulas. It's just that one of the palettes is gonna get decluttered because of the color story of it, and we're gonna be discussing it. But all the rest of I'd say the palettes otherwise are quite equal, but I will be saving my sort of favorite palette for the last. And how I like to do the reviews, you will be seeing image over here at some point with each palette where there's going to be 3 looks, and we're going to have 3 looks with all of them. There are a few smaller palettes here, but I did manage to make 3 looks with all of them, and there's also going to be a image of the swatches of the palette, so you can kind of see all the shades swatched out. But let's now get to the palettes that I have for this video. So, first palette for today, and it's the MUA Illusionist palette. So this is one of their bigger palettes, and the palette that why I do like to keep trying this is that because was it soft? Okay, now I'm blanking. One of the palettes in this format was, for example, my favorite drugstore palette from last year, and the formula is very good, and I have been now trying out more to see that is the formula equal in all of these. Based on the last collective eyeshadow palette review video that I did, we clearly came to a conclusion that unfortunately none of these are equal in terms of formulation. This is gonna be the palette that's actually gonna get decluttered in this video, but it's more related to color stories. But first I'm gonna do this one again, so you're gonna see it maybe close by and hopefully. So this is essentially a very, how should I say, maybe is it actually better that I do it this way, then you can maybe get it better. Yeah. So this is essentially for those of you who like very deep smoky eyes, and I will emphasize the point deep smoky eyes. The formula of this is on par with the palette in this format that I have liked before, so this is better than the palette that more recent palette that I have. I'm currently today not remembering the palette that I've tried previously. So the palette that I have tried from this brand before during this year, that was actually one of I think it was the Starlight palette or something. With that one I did say that the formulas, especially the shimmers, pretty poor quality. This one has the good MUA shimmer formula where the shimmers are very smooth and they're very impactful. I can actually do this swatching out thing, so you can kind of maybe get a better. So as you can see, very opaque, very punchy, very good and very impactful. However, why this is something that's gonna get decluttered, this is actually the palette that I'm currently wearing. You're gonna soon see the looks of this one, but I would have really wished that there would have been a couple of more lighter shimmers, first of all, because there's only like the 2 silvers in this corner. And the silvers, unfortunately, also when you apply them to your eyes, they look basically the same. I do think there's a decent amount of also like lighter matte shades in this one, but what I am also like missing out is maybe that the more mid-tone looking shades in this one, they do kind of go also quite deep. I will give this credit for the fact that the black matte in this palette, which is over here, it is a very good drugstore matte. It's actually went on very dark, but it was also very easy to blend. And I do know there are people who are very picky about their mattes because a lot of people don't like it that most black mattes actually look more like charcoal when you get them to your eyes, or there's blending issues with them. I'm gonna now do a compilation of the looks, and this look is obviously gonna be included in that one. So why this is getting decluttered is that because there's so much, especially deep metallics, there's like, as I showed, there's like only 2 lighter silver shimmers, and those look basically same on the eyes, but all the rest of the metallics in this one are very deep. So with this one I do truly feel, and even though some of the metallics look that there's like a more purple undertone to them, and one of them looks like it has a more blue undertone, but actually when you applied the metallic on top of the matte shade, they actually ended up looking pretty similar. So this is one of those palettes that would have worked maybe better if it was just a 5-pan or a 6-pan palette, because there's the sort of, well, it's called an Illusionist palette, which is gonna maybe funny what I'm gonna say, because the palette kind of gives you the illusion when you look at it that, oh, this is kind of a smoky palette, but there's like actually something like maybe fun and variety of it when you initially look at it. But then when you start applying these shades to your eyes, I was kind of like I had a hard time getting different kind of looks, because I tried to use all of the shades and I still kind of was feeling that all the looks came out pretty similar. So this is getting decluttered purely because of the color story and for my preferences, but if you're someone who's looking for a very good smoky eye, and you especially love your deep smoky eyes, and you want the good quality drugstore formula, I would definitely get this palette from. But if you're someone who likes their smoky eyes, but also someone who does actually need kind of more lighter shades to balance out, and maybe also maybe just variety in their palettes, then this is not something that I would recommend. But formula wise, nothing to critique. This is definitely better than the Starlight palette that I tried from the brand recently, but it's just that I would have liked more variety, and this just goes a bit too maybe deep for my color preferences. So next we're gonna be showing the Dior palette, and you will be hearing my opinion about the Dior holiday palettes last year. And we had expectation because we all know that Silver Essential Backstage palette was one of the top high-end palettes that I actually tried during the whole of last year, and then I had one of the Dior Holiday Quints, and that was one of the most expensive mistakes that I made in terms of makeup purchases. So first I'm gonna be showing the Quint and telling my opinion about this. So what was this called? It has such a reflective packaging. So this was the 643 Golden Masquerade was this one. So they have 2 of these. One of them is more of a purple mauvish color story, but I got the burgundy one, and I'm actually gonna maybe do again showing it this side. And I'm gonna first show this closer so you can kind of get the idea. So this is essentially what you're dealing with. So it's a quint, and is essentially very burgundy leaning quint. And how should I say? I'm much happier with this one compared to a quint last year, but I do think that these are definitely like you have to kind of like this kind of format of eyeshadow palette, and you have to be comfortable in using the money that these cost, because this again I think was over like 70 euros. I actually did like the looks that I come out with this one, but this is again one of those palettes that definitely, considering that how much you're paying for this and compared to the variety you get, it's a pretty poor ratio when you consider it. I just barely got 3 different looks with this one, and what I would have especially liked about that they would have changed with this one is that they included this shade over here, and this is the dot shade, and especially in a quint I'm pretty critical of having a dot shade, because with 5 eyeshadows and considering how much the quint cost, I don't think there should be a single dot shade. This is like I'd say where the palette falls short, is that this is a very dry looking, it's a dry shade, it doesn't build that well to your lids, and it doesn't really like bring anything extra to your looks, and it takes a place for a shade that could actually bring variety. I would have wished that they would have put in another matte instead of this sort of like light peachy shade that really doesn't do anything on your lid. So maybe they could have put in a, I don't know, maybe a mid-tone brown or something else that's pretty typical for these sort of quints, but something else, because basically the only matte you have to work with is this burgundy. Luckily with the burgundy there's actually, you can kind of control how you build it. You can get a more mid-tone kind of layer, or you can build it to be a deepening up shade. So the burgundy kind of works both ways, which is good, because I really do feel that if they would have replaced this shade with another matte, then there could be already much more you could do with this one. You're gonna now see the swatches and look over here. I do have to say that despite the fact that I'm pretty critical about this one, I do kind of like the looks that I did get with this one. If we ignore the very light peachy pinkish dry shade that doesn't really do anything, I did like the end results. This is a very I do think in terms of color story, I'm thinking more about Valentine's when I'm actually using this, because this would create some very beautiful sultry date night looks. As you can see from the looks, there isn't anything like very sparkly shimmers in this one. All the shimmers are more satin kind of shades. I would say that the only thing that is a bit more shimmery is the orange shade over here. I'm actually gonna see that. Can I get it to show on camera? So the orangey sort of shade has a bit more sparkle to it, and that building that one you can kind of get something maybe extra to your looks, but other than that these are very like sort of basic satin formulas that high-end brands like to do. So this is something that is definitely staying in my collection, so that's already improvement for the compared to a quint last year that got thrown out pretty quickly after I had used it. In terms of the longevity, because I did also have bit issues last year with the longevity of the quints, I do think that the shades did last much better. There were a few days that I had at the end of the day, I could clearly see that there was some fading with the eyeshadow, but overall I would still say that in terms of longevity and just the formulation, this was still like better than the quint that I got from the brand last year. But is this something that I would say that from all the like many holiday launches by now that we have had during this year, that would this be a priority? Unless you're like a very big Dior fan, and I do have to say that now that I have become a bit of a Dior fan, I fully on board this, knowing that it's quite expensive for what it is and it might not fulfill all the expectation I have for it. But I sort of do like the end result, but you really have to be comfortable at buying the quint at the price and knowing that there's gonna be like there isn't gonna be anything super special you get with this one, but the looks that you are able to get with it are beautiful. So that's the maybe sort of my end conclusion about this one. So make good consideration that is this truly something that's within your budget, and will you actually like the looks that you will be able to get with it. So next for the Dior palette that I had the most highest expectations for, and we're sort of on the 40-60 ratio how this went. So of course, because I was and have been so impressed with the Backstage palettes, of course I did get the 004 Celestial Purple, so it's the Backstage palette from this year, and we're gonna be doing this again. So as you can see, I do think compared to the Silver Essentials last year, we are getting much more diversity with this one compared to the and maybe compared to general what we have seen from these Backstage palettes. With this one you can truly get a more neutral look, you can get a more blue leaning look, and you can get a more purple look. So I do say that because this is now my fourth Backstage palette, so yeah, we are already having quite a very decent amount of these ones. And I do have to say that they haven't been the most versatile, even though with the 9 pan you should think that, well, it's on 9 shades, but I do think 9 shades is enough that with a smart color story you can actually get quite good diversity already from 9 eyeshadows in a palette. What I wasn't such a big fan of this one, and I did discuss this on the social media post I made about this one, is that unfortunately not all the formulas here are the good opaque formula that the Silver Essentials palette had and the sort of summer palette they launched this year had. A lot of the shades in this one, they do look opaque in the pan, but actually this had a lot of topper shades. The truly only like this sort of opaque creamier formula that I've liked from the brand are basically the deep shades over here and then the silver shade in this corner. So those were like the only that were the same. All the rest of the shimmer shades, unfortunately, this one are more or less topper shades, and that's something that I wasn't such a big fan of with this one, because within a 9 pan, because it's already quite many colors, I can take 1 or 2 topper shades, but then when you start having majority of the shimmers being topper shades, then I'm kind of like not into it. You're gonna now see the looks. Unfortunately, I did also make a neutral brown look with this one. It's possible, but it was such a busy day, I didn't have time to take an image of it, so you're gonna see the photos that I was able to take from the looks. And okay, despite the fact that a lot of the shimmers are more toppery-esque, luckily they did seem to. Most of them I was somehow able to build, so actually they did look nice on the lids, or I could use them as a transition color. With the Backstage palettes, you should definitely consider that you aren't gonna get true matte shades, so they're more or less satin shades or these toppery shimmer shades, and even the topper shimmers aren't like super blinding shimmers, they're more toned down shimmer. So with this one you definitely have to also use the sort of shimmery shades as your transition shades for like cohesive looks, if you have a similar eyeshadow style that I like to do my eyeshadow with. However, with this Backstage formula, I have noted that it is possible. Not all formulas, not all like shimmer and satin formulas you can do that, but with this one, I think they're designed in a way that you can do that. But yeah, in terms of diversity, I have to say that despite the fact that I am not such a big fan of the topper formulas in this one, in the end I can still get quite many looks with this one. And I think this is one of those palettes that I usually don't like to pack my high-end palettes when I'm trolling because I'm afraid they're gonna break, but if it's not such an issue for you, this I think would truly be a good 9 pan palette to take, because first of all, this is very slim, it's very small, but there's like you can truly do that if you need during the trip, you want a more neutral look. You can get kind of a look that there's like deepening up shades in this one. You can get a more like silvery blue look, purple look, you can mix in the shades, and I do think that surprisingly all the shades mixed in together, because I was kind of thinking that okay, we have this warm brown row over here, but then we have these very like cool tone purples and blues, but actually the browns did mix in quite nicely with the rest of the shades in this one. So well, I would maybe wish some better formulas. I do have to say that in terms of the variety, this is one of my favorite Backstage palettes. And initially when I was watching it, I was thinking that, oh my god, it has so many topper shades. I was thinking that I'm not gonna like this one. But in terms of actual variety and how the looks have come out at the end, I do actually like this quite a lot. So, the last palette of today, another smaller palette, and this is the one of the newer Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. So this is the Spice palette. So ABH came out with 2 of these. There's the Sugar palette, and then there's this warm toned Spice one, and this is how we are looking at. I do have to say that in terms of formula, it's actually pretty good that I had the Fall Romance palette recently in my rotation. It was the bigger palette ABH released last fall. I think they have done something with the formula, because this feels even a bit better. Granted, these are the more sort of neutral brown shades that are easier to formulate, but I did feel that the neutrals in this one, they were blended just better. They felt kind of buttery. The shimmers in this one, I was initially actually a bit scared about the shimmers, because when I swatched out, especially the mid-row shimmers, they kind of felt flaky and more toppery-esque, and I was thinking that okay, but is this gonna basically fall down with the fact that the shimmers are really toppery? Like the only like more opaque shimmer is this kind of satin shade over here. But actually the shimmers, once you build them onto your lid, you can build them into quite quickly into an opaque layer, and the shimmers are the stars of this one. Actually, what's kind of interesting is that the shimmers, actually, when you get them to your lid, like this gold shimmer definitely is more true to the pan color, but actually the true like 2 shimmers in this side, they are kind of, I don't think they're like multi-chromes, but they kind of look a bit different on the eyes when you apply them. For example, these more pinkier shades over here actually goes a bit more like silver on your eye, and actually the middle shimmer over here, it actually turned out like more yellow, almost green shifting once you laid it onto your lid. I'm gonna now show the looks, obviously because it's a very neutral leaning 9 pan, and especially considering the mattes that are included in this one, there isn't gonna be a super lot of diversity you will get this one, but I genuinely enjoyed and liked all the looks, and especially because the shimmers kinda did bring something a bit more surprising than what I was initially expecting, and this just shows that you never should believe just in hand swatches, because eyeshadow can still the eyeshadow can still like look better when you get it to eye, and with this palette especially I would say that the swatches didn't like tell the whole truth, because on eyes this looked truly beautiful. I'm kinda thinking that I'm maybe gonna put the sugar palette that's in the same series. I'm gonna probably put that to my Christmas wish list, because I was so impressed with the formula of this one. The only downside to this maybe is that because especially the middle shimmers of this palette, they are pretty soft shimmers. So I wouldn't maybe, even though this kind of looks convenient to travel with, I wouldn't maybe travel with this one, because the shimmers in the middle row, they are so soft when you touch them. Then I would be pretty afraid that if you drop this or anything, that the shimmers are gonna be something that they probably will break quite easily. Maybe something to consider is that because the middle row shimmers are quite sort of soft and flaky, they might not pick out the best with a brush. I would definitely advise with the middle row shimmers with this one that you use your fingers with them, and if you don't like fallout, then maybe even use a glitter glue underneath. They certainly don't need a glitter glue, they do stick without glitter glue, and as you can see from the looks, they do build quite nicely. But if you are very picky with your fallout, then a glitter glue would probably make a nice insurance that you don't get that much of it when you apply this. With me it's not such an issue, because I do my eye makeup first and then I do my base makeup, but for those of you who do your base makeup first, then just be aware that the shimmers can be a bit more flakier when you work with them. But a great palette, and I would very hope that this formula will go to other ABH palette. And I do actually like this 9 pan format, because I have so many eyeshadows. I actually do think that these 9 pans are a very good way to bring out new color stories without them taking too much space. And if the quality is similar that's in this palette, then as I said, the sugar palette, I might put that into my Christmas wish list, because I would be now very interested to also try out that one, even though that again is maybe a sort of cool toned leaning neutral palette that has pops of blues and pinks, but still after trying out this formula, it is something that I would be interested to try out and see that is it as good as the Spice one was. So I think today's video theme was definitely a theme of small eyeshadow palettes, even though the Illusionist palette wasn't, like, in terms of amount of eyeshadows, it wasn't small. I do think it was still the smaller size. I truly did enjoy the eyeshadow palettes. The Illusionist palette, as I said, is gonna get decluttered purely because of color story preferences, but in terms of formula quality, all of these had pretty decent formulas, and I had very little complaint. It was just that there were like individual small things that I maybe didn't like, but it was definitely like a past month has been a good month in terms of trying new eyeshadows, because I have been enjoying the looks that I did create with most of these palettes. Comment down below, have you tried any of these palettes and what did you think about them, or is there any other new eyeshadow palettes that you have been trying out? If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and the bell button if you want to get notifications from my future content. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope I'll see you again soon in the video. Bye bye!